This is Morning Victory, meaning sad victory. Morning Victory is a monument in the Sleepy Hollow Cemetery in Concord, Massachusetts, created by America's greatest sculptor, Daniel Chester French. It is more commonly known as the Melvin Memorial because it was commissioned by James Melvin, a wealthy Boston businessman, to honor his three brothers who had died in the Civil War. The statue depicts the angel of death guarding the graves of the three fallen brothers. The four brothers grew up in Concord and the elder three were of military age, and anxious to do their part in the Civil War. Abraham Lincoln called for volunteers to make up his army, and all the young men of Concord, maybe 70 of them, gathered together to form a group of their own, to go off to fight in the Civil War. It was a grand occasion, the town leaders called a holiday. They had a big banquet in the Middlesex Hotel for all the boys. There was a parade to lead them off to the railroad station. There was a special train car to pick them up and take them to Washington to join the army. All four Melvin brothers tried to be part of this first group of celebrated recruits, but the youngest brother, James, was too young. He did join his brothers in the army in 1864 at the age of 16, 2 years younger than the minimum age. Asa, John, Samuel and James Melvin all served in the relatively safe Company K of the 1st Massachusetts Heavy Artillery. But as the war dragged on, the infantry soldiers died by the tens of thousands, and these three brothers all found themselves in the infantry. 49 Concord men died in the Civil War. John Melvin died of disease in a U.S. military hospital before he saw any action. Asa Melvin, the oldest brother, was killed during one of the assaults on Petersburg. Samuel Melvin was captured shortly after the Battle of Spotsylvania. He died in the hellhole, Andersonville prison. Samuel kept a journal of his time in the army, and at Andersonville. His writings are considered one of the most valuable historical records of that grim place. James came back to Concord. Over the years he became quite well-to-do. In 1897, he commissioned his friend, Daniel Chester French, the boy he had grown up with in Concord, to do a memorial for his long-deceased brothers. This is what he produced, and placed here in 1906. The monument has been maintained over its 110-year history. Her eyes are closed. The laurel leaves in her left hand are the symbol of victory. Her wings are draping down behind her. Her shroud is an American flag, with the stars at the top. There was a dedication held in 1909 where many of the men who served with the brothers shared personal memories of the Melvin boys. But this was not the most famous sculpture by Daniel Chester French. His most famous creation is the statue of the sitting Abraham Lincoln, in the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C., unveiled in 1922. Another of his very famous works is the Minuteman statue. It stands less than a mile from here in the Minuteman National Historical Park in Concord, next to the rude bridge that arched the flood. Both Daniel Chester French and his friend James Melvin are also buried in this Sleepy Hollow Cemetery. Their markers are not nearly so elaborate. When Dan French was asked which of his 50 or so famous sculptures did he like the best, he would always say Morning Victory. He knew the boys. He had grown up with them,